Yeah, if you can tell by the title of this video, the gearhead, internal combustion engine, loud vroom vroom, bad smelling car guy got his first EV. And this, as I throw out my hip trying to do the Doug DeMuro with my leg, is my 2026, technically my wife's 2026 Rivian Tri.
For those looking for a high-end custom gaming experience, look no further than Falcon Northwest. Falcon Northwest has been building PCs made for gamers for over 30 years with a focus on a true high-end gaming experience. Custom cases available only through Falcon Northwest feature state-of-the-art testing and design to ensure that every component is performing at their best through thermal imaging and rigorous lab testing designed and overseen by the Falcon Northwest founder himself. With a complete lineup of systems ranging from small to large, every Falcon Northwest system includes a 3-year warranty policy and a year of 2-way overnight shipping coverage, providing the ultimate peace of mind. To see all that Falcon Northwest has to offer, follow the sponsored link in the description below.
So you might be like, Jay, why isn't this on the car channel? Well, because this really, for me, today's video is more about the tech that's involved in this. Look, I am absolutely, like, I just heard a V8 start. I'm like, ooh. So let me preface this video. I don't think I'm saving the environment. I don't think this is any more friendly on the environment than any of my ICE cars, by the way. The amount of materials and cost and the tire wear on this thing and the battery size, it is not environmentally friendly, okay? So I'm just throwing that out there right now. I think that's all a bunch of hoot. I only make that joke because the car actually hoots as an owl when you lock it at night. Anyway, I digress. I have 4 V8s and a V10. Okay, I've got a 2022 RS6 Avant that's modified and downpiped. I've got a 2020 Audi R8 that is supercharged and modified. I have a 2020 AMG GT-R, which is downpiped and turboed and modified. And I have a 1968 Camaro with a very built LS7 with no cats or any of that crap, although it's very environmentally friendly because it doesn't drive. Anyway, and I have a 2024 Chevy Silverado ZR2 1500 gasser 6.2 liter V8 that gets terrible gas mileage. But this isn't about those, this is about this. This is actually my wife's daily driver now. We traded in a 2024 RSQ8. I know some of you are like, what? Don't get me started on the Audi quirks and nuances. It's a Volkswagen, don't forget, which means the electric system in there sucks. Anyway, we've kind of considered the idea of trying out an EV for a long time. I still have range anxiety, even though I've got about 500 and something miles on this already. I'm constantly looking at the battery, like, oh no, it's gone down 2%. We're gonna run out of range. But I do have a 220 volt charger at home. Obviously, this thing also has the capability of using the Tesla charger system, which is kind of nice because for 2026 model, it has native NACS charging. So it's no longer, I forget the name of the other port, but it's no longer using that. This is the charge port that it used to have, and I forget what this is called. This is basically, I have 2 adapters. One that's just this plug, and then I had to buy this one for $400. This is just obviously the frunk, where the engine should be. It still feels really wrong. So this is normally there. Child seat anchor guides. Okay, I don't need those, thank God. Hopefully never again. That factory is closed. I mean, trust me, we still make sure the machinery works, but we sure as hell don't want to produce any product. Anyway, the organization stuff down here comes with a first aid kit. This right here is actually, wait a minute. That looks like there should have been a tow hook in there, and there's not. So I might want to look into that. Anyway, this, because Rivian is all about off-roading and adventuring and all that stuff, it has a built-in air compressor, which is pretty awesome. Makes sense, it's on an air suspension. So in the back, it actually has a compressor port where I can then plug in this hose right here, which means I can air up and air down tires as needed. So if I were going, say, off-roading or on sandy, like on the beach or something like that, you air down. But then what do? Normally it's a cigarette lighter and just, okay, does it take forever to charge up your tires or air up your tires? This, you just use the natural compressor system that's built into it. No full-size spare, not even a space-saving spare. That's the real downside with the R1S and the R1, well, the R1T, actually the truck has a spare option. The R1S, not so much. You can, I think, get a small spare, but it doesn't come with it. They give you tire ject, which is essentially a fix-a-flat. This is pretty cool right here. Technically, they say this drain is just for any rainwater that may make its way in here. Shouldn't be the case because we're fully sealed around here. But what I see in at like the Cars and Coffee events that Rivian's been there is they fill the sucker up with ice and then they put in like bottles and they're like, here, have some water. And then they just pull that plug and it all drains out the bottom. They say it's not technically supposed to be an ice chest, but this is all sealed plastic. Like you take that sucker out right there you could fill this sucker up pretty high and then drain it out. I'm not planning on doing that, but apparently you could. Obviously you have the app that allows you to do all kinds of cool things, but the cool thing is you can also set up shortcuts right here. So as you can see on the shortcut here, I have it set so I can unlock, lock, open hood, close hood. So you watch, open hood. Pretty cool, right? I can also, of course, start the climate control system. That's one of the cool things about EVs is you have not only just pet mode, but you can also start the climate control system. Let's go ahead and take a look at the back real quick. So as you can see, the lift gate obviously is it's like a 3/4 and a quarter. This is a tailgate on here, which is nice because it means when you open the hatch, things aren't gonna like start falling out and stuff. And the cool thing about this is you never have to worry about scratching the bumper because there you go. You're gonna take stuff off now. If you hit the bumper, something really wrong happened. But this is manual. It is an electronic release, but unlike this being power, this is a manual release, which is fine. You can see the third row is folded down. That's the main reason we ended up switching out the vehicle. And I looked at some other cars. I looked at the Audi, or not the Audi, but the BMW X7. Didn't really want to go back to Mercedes for a daily. We had the GLE before. My wife's had all kinds of problems. The GLS is the 3-row version. Audi I know is coming out with a new Q9, which is even bigger, but I never ever want to be the beta tester for any of the new models that come out that haven't been tested. So the third row is nice. We leave it folded down for the most part because my kids were constantly bringing kids to school. Hey, Dad, can you give so-and-so a ride? Or hey, can you pick up so-and-so with us? Or my wife technically has to do all that. It just becomes a problem with everyone trying to squish into the Audi, the RS Q8. So the Q8's cool, very sporty, but not very big. In terms of storage, there's a ridiculous amount of storage inside the Rivians. This is actually where that like space savory type spare would go. So you can imagine for a vehicle this big, that's not a very big spare. I kind of wish they had done maybe instead of having this be a split gate like this, it would have been nice if maybe it was a swing door with a full-size spare on the back. There are companies that make the full-size spare option this does not have the tow package, we didn't do that. That hooks into the tow hitch, and then it has a swing away door with the full-size spare. But that kind of there's extra problems with that. It interferes with the cameras and the sensor systems. You have to then deactivate all those rear sensors when you do that. Since we're not doing any real off-roading or anything like that, having a full-size spare isn't something that is that important to us, but it's a nice to have. So we do have manual fold for the rear. The middle seats are power down and then manual up. And then right here, this is where our compressor is. And the cool thing is we can just set. So we can turn it on and then be like, okay, I want to go to, or I want to fill it up, let's say to 38 PSI, and that's it. Yeah, so then you just set it and then push the button and it goes, right? It's pretty cool. But one thing I think is cool is you look at this shelf right here and you're like, oh man, that makes it kind of sucky if you're trying to load stuff in here, but check this out. So you just relocate that as like a ramp, which is kind of neat, I guess. So you can see the door handles pop out. They pop out automatically. I have it set right now so when I walk up to the vehicle or anyone walks up to the vehicle, it automatically pops out all four. You can make it just do the driver's seat because this could be a security problem. Let's say you're by yourself at night. I'm not trying to be sexist or anything, but you're a woman, you're by yourself. It's kind of a target, right? You walk up to your car and someone's waiting on the other side and all the handles pop out. You don't want them jumping in the other side, right? So you could set it so only this door unlocks when you walk up to it. The interior that you can see that we went with, this is called Slate Sky with walnut. My wife fell in love with this color interior. Rivian is one of those companies where everything has a cost. The only color that doesn't have an upcharge is silver, which is so ironic because that's almost always black or white from other auto manufacturers that don't have an upcharge. Silver is the one that doesn't have an upcharge. This was a $3,000 option for this color. This is a $3,000 interior. The only interior that doesn't cost money is the black with the ash wood, and the wood is black as well. That's why it's called ash wood. It was just very boring. My wife fell in love with this Slate Sky with the walnut and the super light blue and this grayish blue, more of a slate color. A little tip, I didn't know this. If you're ever wanting to tell how to identify what trim you're looking at if you see one on the road, if it's black in the inlay on any of the emblems, it's a dual, because the available options are dual or dual with performance and then dual max pack like battery sizes. Then there's tri-motor and then there's quad motor. If it's yellow like this, it's a tri-motor. And if it's like an aqua-ish blue color, it's a quad motor. Now the tri-motor has 850 horsepower, 1,103 pound-feet of torque. The quad brings that up to over 1,025 horsepower and like 1,300 pound-feet of torque. So it's something crazy like that. But as you can imagine, the range takes a big hit as you step up the motor sizes. So even the base model is a dual motor. But one last thing I want to show is like the front seats I feel are kind of crazy for an SUV. Like I do love this canvas background like this back of the seat, because my kids were always like bumping it with their feet and crossing their legs. So I think this will be a lot more durable with this canvas than say just the plastic. This is spring loaded. There's a USB-C charger up here in the headrest, as well as right there in the center. But you can see they even get a screen back there where they can control the radio, the Bluetooth, there's a compass, there's seat heaters. Middle row and rear row has seat heaters, but no ventilation. One thing that's kind of nice though is you can have all sorts of Bluetooth devices connected at the same time. Audi, you could have multiple devices connected at the same time, but then you had to switch between them. I couldn't be like my kid in the backseat, like, hey dad, I want you to hear this real quick. So we just click the Bluetooth button and click her phone, and then suddenly it's attached to her, but all my stuff is still connected and doing my thing as well. So it just pauses my Bluetooth, goes to hers, and then I can just switch back. Now a lot of manufacturers, it doesn't have to be an EV, a lot of manufacturers do that, but our Audis did not do that very well at all. And neither does my Chevy, and neither does the Mercedes. So this is, I feel, is a smarter, better system at changing the style, or not the style, but the connection of the device. Oh, one other thing I want to point out, it is a push button release for the door handle.
Where is the emergency release?
You have to break this panel off. You have to pop this off. And these are, yeah, you literally can't do this in an emergency. Like you can't get a grip on it if the door's closed, right? You can grab it from underneath probably, so it has a little play. They're one-time clips, so I'm not gonna demonstrate that, because once you break it off, you have to replace the clips. But the front door has it right here.
Oh, why didn't they just do
So why didn't they do that in the back? It's practically the same door handle. Here's the thing, the first gen had it as a manual release that was accessible. The second gen does not. So this is dangerous. I'm very concerned about this, to be honest. The kids are either gonna have to crawl over the front seat to get out there, or hope that this button works. Because you're not getting to the emergency release, which is behind here. I'm just trying to figure out, like, and here's the thing, my 10-year-old and my 16-year-old daughter, they are not gonna be able to get their fingers in there and yank this out. That's not good in my opinion. It's a little scary, to be honest. Look, when we shop cars, my wife has only one thing in mind. Will her cup fit? I don't like this though, because I'm a little concerned over time that might wear out or break. I have this right here just to kind of show. I bought a 1 terabyte portable SSD from SanDisk and a 90-degree USB-C adapter, because this car has what's also called gear guard. And what'll happen is it will basically be always recording. And that's not only always like a Tesla, how Tesla, you know, it's always recording, and that's how you see those videos of people keying their Teslas and stuff. But guess what? It actually decided, hey, we have all these cameras on the car, why don't we record every drive as well? So having a 1 terabyte in here is awesome. It will store lots of drives. And then I forget where the shortcut is. I'll have to rewatch some other people's videos. But there's a button on the dash you can push that will like timestamp a clip. And then it will save a clip separately as well. So like if you witness an accident or an idiot driver, like Phil likes to, like, he's the idiot driver of the day today when he had his black view in his car. So he was always showing us like some stupid thing. But I have these here because I need to install them. They install down inside here. So this again is just another Amazon organizer, gate keys for the neighborhood. And then this sucker can come out. But way down in here, oh, here's the other charger port. That's what I was telling you. This is the only one we get with it, which is the slow charge port. So it has a plug into the right one here. We see how the ports kind of point up. So I have the 90-degree to point it down. But then I can plug the SSD into the right one here and just store it in the bottom. And then it's it. It's just always recording. So I'm gonna end up doing that here soon. Obviously she has these charger cables, but this is an NFC charging pad as well right here. There's 2 of them. So as you can see, mine connected fine, Phil's connected fine. It's a little on the slow side. Most NFC charging is, so the cables are nice for obviously connecting for multimedia, but also a faster charge. Oh, there's no glove box, which I think is odd. There is a little storage right here underneath the driver's seat, if you look, that you can put like your registration and stuff in, a tiny little slot. But the tech in this car is pretty insane. So let's go ahead and take a look at like the HVAC system. Right now it's not synced, right? Phil's is blowing the coldest, mine's set to nice. And if I were to hit sync, obviously that would sync it. You can turn on and off the mirror defroster, same thing with steering wheel heater. Pet mode is pretty cool. It's pretty obvious. A lot of EVs have that now. If you're leaving your pet in the vehicle, it leaves the HVAC system on and it locks everything else in the car. So like pushing on buttons. Let's say the dog gets in the car and it like puts her paw right there. So I'm gonna start rolling down the window and the pet jumps out. It will lock everything in terms of like turning off the functionality, but it will leave the cooling system on. Look, as my first EV, I'm learning really quickly, the HVAC uses as much power as driving the car. So I'll be really interested to see what our range is like in the colder weather, because of the fact that we won't be running the HVAC. And we're not cold enough here to where it's too cold and affects the battery life. So, I mean, we get to maybe the 50s, sometimes the 40s. Like you have to get down to like the teens. Obviously I'm talking Fahrenheit, but you got to get down in the teens or closer to 0C before the battery health and battery life is really affected by the temperature. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what it's going to be like. This whole weekend it's supposed to be in the low 70s. I'm like, great, we won't have to run the AC. I can really get a good feel. But because this is the Tri Max pack, it has a maximum EPA estimated range of 371 miles. For a big 8,000 pound EV, that's pretty damn good because the whole bottom of the car is batteries. I will say this though, we have not seen it go above 346, and that's probably because we're running the HVAC. There's obviously way too much to show you, so let me just show you some of the main features. I kind of feel like these buttons at the bottom need to be bigger. I think there should be a more widgety type mode where you get rid of a lot of this extra shit on the screen and it's just big, easy to locate buttons, because if you're not familiar with all the stuff is, like especially the HVAC and you're doing your stuff, this could be distracting when driving. Fortunately, it has a pretty strong and really good enhanced driving assist, and I'll show you guys that. But here's the other creepy thing. The vents, as you can see, they're built in right here. The vents are also in the side right there. There is no way to move these, right? So if you want to move them, you literally do it like this. It seems like something else to potentially break. The middle row's vent speed also is tied to the front's vent speed, which I think is a bad choice, because there's oftentimes my kids will be cold and my wife is not. My kids will be hot and my wife is never hot. She's always cold. So my kids will want to crank the air back there, which means it has to crank it up here. But I find it disappointing because the back gets its own fan speed. Like the third row gets its own fan speed. So one thing I want to point out right now too is it is absolutely chilly in here. There's no problem with it keeping cool. Gen 1s had massive complaints about how terrible their HVAC system was. In fact, a friend of mine even told me, Jay, don't bother getting a Rivian, the air conditioner is terrible. But did my research and had my friend buy one first and then rode in his, and I was like, oh, it's really cold. So the AC has not been a problem. The biggest thing though is there's a lot of thermal heat that it has to deal with, because it has what they call the Vision package, and all Rivian R1Ss have this package essentially with the big roof where you can see through. The cool thing though is that I can just hit a button and it will frost out. So it's electro-translucent, which it helps with some of the heat, but not a lot. So in the really hot days, I do have a sun visor I bought, because there's no shade that closes. I really think they should have made a retractable shade that's built in. It is Alexa controlled. Everyone right now, I apologize. I'm gonna say the A word, I apologize. Alexa, sync the HVAC system.
Sorry, I don't know that one.
Alexa, put the car in conserve mode.
Sorry.
Alexa, set the XM to rock the bells. This is really turning out to be a great demonstration. It's one reason why I don't use it. Alexa, set the temperature to 65 degrees.
Okay, setting it to 65.
Oh, does not have Android Auto, does not have CarPlay, will never have those two things. Rivian is adamant that they absolutely will not bend to what both Apple and Android or Google have basically stipulated they have to do to make it integrated with their car. So they're like, no, we're not gonna do that. So you can log into Spotify directly. So it's logged into Spotify right now. It can log into any of your Apple Music or any of your Apple subscription stuff, right? That's cool. Obviously it has Sirius XM. Obviously, you can make it pair with your phone. I don't have this is a new, obviously I'm an F boy and I bought the new iPhone because I was a sucker for the orange. Anyway, it's not paired yet. I didn't pair the new one. It can pair with that. Obviously, that can bring up the menu for all the different stuff that it can do. So it can do Audible. So if you're doing a lot of podcasts or books, you can log into it directly. I'll be honest, so far I have had more luck, more connectivity, stability, having everything logged in directly on the vehicle than sharing it from my phone than we ever had with our Audi. So far this has been pretty nice. Now the cool thing is, let's say you're sitting there at the charger, and I think Teslas can do this too, can also Google Cast, and check this out. Boom. It's got YouTube directly on there. Hey, did you know there's an NVIDIA monopoly?
Nice.
So yeah, I just think having this in there natively, or anything you can Google Cast to keep yourself entertained, because let's face it, the days of like, oh, I'm low on fuel, you can pump some fuel in 5 minutes, be off and running. Nope, depending on how low you are, this, even on a fast charger of 250 to 350 kilowatts, will still take about 45 minutes to get to 80% if it's down low. So it's a problem with having a big battery, right? Now, one thing I think is kind of neat though is for the garage door opener. It's right here with the little garage button. So if I were to hit that, it brings up main garage door or any gate codes or anything there. All you do is put it in pairing mode, hold your remote up to the mirror, hold the button down for like 10 seconds and it will get it. Even rolling code. I don't know how it does that, because normally with rolling code, you have to go push the button on the garage door for it to actually capture the rolling code. I didn't have to do that. So, and it still continues to work, and my code is definitely rolling. So I don't know how it's doing that, but I'm assuming that's the same way everyone else is cloning them now in some way, but whatever, it works. But the cool thing is it's proximity based. So when the car was parked in the driveway, I was able to tell the car, hey, this is home. I'm now at the garage door. So as you approach home, when you pull up into the driveway, on the main screen right here, a garage will appear. And if I push the right button, it will open the garage door, or the left button for the other door, or you can scroll between them if you have multiple doors or multiple locations. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the cameras. So as you can see, pretty standard front and rear facing cameras, 360 camera. You can also look at the left, you can look at the right, you can look top down 360. Nothing too crazy to talk about there. It's all pretty standard. Different drive modes. We have all purpose, conserve, sport, snow, height adjustability right here. Foot on the brake, that stuff will light up. So ride height right now is in standard. You can also lower the vehicle if you want. Your ride feel, here's the thing. Firm still feels pretty soft, and I think part of that is because this vehicle is so damn heavy, and it is an air suspension. You can see this has a yaw sensor in it, so when we were in off-road mode, it actually showed like a gyro on there to show us what angle we're at. You can hit level, and it will level the vehicle. So if it's on uneven terrain, you're trying to camp, because a lot of people do overland with their Rivians, and they'll have like the tent and stuff on top, you want it level. So it'll just auto level itself, which I think is pretty neat. So we've actually got to go to Micro Center, so it's a perfect opportunity, I guess, to show some of the highway features and all that. So I pretty much drive with this thing in all-purpose mode everywhere I'm going. So you don't want to drive in conserve mode, because what that'll do, and by you don't want to drive in it, I mean obviously use it in situations where you've really maybe got to make that battery last. On the highway makes sense, but stop and go, because it disables the rear motors and only makes it front wheel drive. This is a very heavy vehicle to ask the front tires to do all of the driving, so you'll start to wear them down pretty quickly. But the road noise in here is not too bad. Like, it's not rattly. They are, and what I'm hearing in the back right there, that's that air sound, that's the rear vents I have going right now. So I could technically turn that off. My seat is my cup is in the back rattling right now, but this is a pretty rough road with the roots sticking up through the road.
Wow, that's firm.
Yeah.
That was not firm.
That's why I was telling you, like,
right. It really is.
It's a bit soft, but that's because of the weight of the damn thing, you know what I mean? I think the weirdest thing that I had to get used to, though, with having never owned an EV before, is the fact that regen, right? Regen is awesome. It uses the motors to slow down the vehicle, which puts it puts small amounts of power, but power back into the batteries, which obviously is going to help with your range. But that also means right now, I never used the brakes. Like, I'm stopping right now, but look, my foot is still on the throttle because I'm just lifting up the throttle to slow the vehicle down. And now the regen's set to high right now because I don't feel like there's a big difference between moderate and high. Low is pretty low, it will still coast through it. But it just means you take your foot up off the throttle less. Now, the one thing I had to get used to was, unlike a regular gasser, is like transition from throttle to brake. If you just lift the throttle, the car just coasts. You do that in this, you lift the throttle, it's like, starts to slow down pretty suddenly. Oh no, I gotta get in front of this guy.
Dude, it sounds like a spaceship. That's so awesome.
It's got a lot of acceleration. That wasn't even launch mode. It's fun. Now here's the thing. That is never going to replace the sound and rumble of an engine doing it. I don't think they understand what hands-free means. So that's never gonna, like, that's a fun to have, not even a need to have. Let me tell you the most shallow reason why I have a tri-motor. It's because this interior wasn't available in a dual. It is, now the difference in lease price between the tri and the dual wasn't crazy. It wasn't that bad. So that's why I was like, okay, fine, we'll just do the tri. The tri is for me, the acceleration, but I have other cars that accelerate as fast as this. So it's like, okay, it's cool, you know, but like for instance right now, this big rig has decided he's making his own lane.
Huh.
So
That's, yeah.
he's just made his own lane, but that's okay.
I am really hyped by the fact that they bothered to not dampen the motor sounds. I love that so much. Oh, that's so cool.
But it's got some body roll. It's got a little bit of body roll. Just want to point that out.
This isn't the R8.
It's not the RSQ8
R1.
either. I need to preface this. The RSQ8, if you want to have an SUV that can corner, you want the RSQ8. In fact, the RSQ8 performance model holds the Nürburgring record for SUV. So, but the thing is, like, that used 1%, those Meet Floor, like that was 1% battery. And I don't do that very often. In fact, I'm having more fun playing the hypermiling game, where I'm just like, I put the efficiency meter on, and it's green when you're above 2 miles per kilowatt hour, and it goes gray if you're under that. Now here's the backwards thinking. The ice in my head says coasting on the highway would be the most efficient. That's true for a gas engine, because the RPMs are low and you're just maintaining. It takes very little horsepower to maintain speed. However, for electric motors to maintain speed means you are maintaining voltage to them and you are maintaining power to them. So on the highway is actually the most inefficient mode for an EV, so it's totally backwards for me. So that's why you can see right there the efficiency for us around town was all in the green, but now on the highway, look, we're hovering right around that too, and that's only because we're going 46 miles per hour. The faster we go, like, that will start to get lower and lower. And I do like the lane change blinker, even though it does have the radar, it has the radar or whatever, and also it does like the Tesla thing where it shows you all of the vehicles around you, including behind you, which is kind of nice. But you see, the faster we go, look, we're dipped now under 2. I'm only maintaining speed at 70 right now, so it is very inefficient on the highway, and that blew my mind. I didn't consider the fact that, oh yeah, to maintain the speed with a gas engine, you're giving it very little fuel. It's just dripping fuel to maintain the speed, and the RPM is at its lowest because it should be in its highest gear, right? The cruising gear. But the EV, no, there's no gears. They're direct drive motors to the wheels. So to maintain that speed, that motor has to keep turning at that speed, which eats the power. So hypermiling is kind of fun though. When you get behind a big rig, you can actually noticeably see the improvement to fuel economy. Now, the other cool thing about this is it has obviously your adaptive cruise control, has regular cruise control, and it has enhanced highway driving. But it's not available everywhere. It is geolocation based. And I'm not sure why that is, because right now I'm on the 15 freeway in Southern California, which is a major highway. Like this, I could take this right now all the way past Utah if I wanted, right? And into Colorado, I believe. But the lines are well marked, even though there's a lot of cracks in the road. So Phil, if you want to show directly in front of us right now, you can see there's a lot of seams because they've expanded this highway a bit, like this big crack right down the middle. The Audi's adaptive cruise control would sometimes confuse those cracks for lanes and would start to center me weird. Or if the crack went off sideways, the car would try and follow the crack. It was sketch, and I never used it for that reason. However, the enhanced driving mode, highway assist mode, is really good at recognizing the lines because it's using GPS as well as the cameras to follow the lines. So, and then of course, when it comes to following the vehicle in front of me and such, unlike Tesla, which is doing it purely by camera, this is also using sonar. So it's really good at navigating and negotiating when a car will come into my gap. The Audi would just like spike the brakes. There was no real adjustment to that. You could only adjust the following distance, but I couldn't adjust the reaction to a vehicle moving in. The Rivian has by far been the best experience I've had with any partial driving mode, partial self-driving mode, at negotiating a car taking up my gap. It just lifts slowly and gets back that gap and then maintains. It doesn't react. So I'm gonna go ahead and engage enhanced driving mode right now, which is pulling on the right stalk twice. There we go. And it even tells you, take your hands off the wheel. So enhanced driving assist is on right now. You can see right there, it's showing no hands. Watch, if I touch it, it's saying take your hands off the wheel. That's why it's doing this motion. So you also know when you're in enhanced driving mode because it shows that blue line. It obviously uses cameras to make sure that you're being aware. So if I look away and I start talking to Phil here, it'll pop up on the screen any second now and say, keep your eyes on the road. See if I keep looking out here like, oh, what's that? Or if I'm looking down, like at my phone and stuff, see, keep your eyes on the road. And as soon as I look forward, it goes away. But it's interesting to me how, see, now it's saying take control, highway assist off. See, it just decided like, I don't know where we are, so you have to drive now. But it turned it off entirely. That's the first time it's ever done that. I've had it go, say, hey, put your hand back on the wheel, and then it will do like a partial assist where it'll still steer, but it wants your hands on the wheel, unlike where it was telling me to take them off. If I pull it once, then it's just adaptive cruise control.
Nice.
So twice is to engage enhanced driving, once is just for regular cruise control. And that's important to me in an EV now because to maintain the speed, like I said, you have to maintain the throttle. And the throttle position, it's got a pretty stiff spring on the accelerator. So holding it there could start to turn into, like on long drives, starts to turn into some shin fatigue. So I definitely like using at the very least the adaptive cruise control, so I'm not holding my foot there.
Wait, you gotta do a lane change and do the steering drive.
Oh yeah. I'm really trusting it right now. Because there's a wall right there. Let's talk about interior cabin noise though. For the no engine sounds, obviously you're left with tire noise and wind noise. It is dual pane glass, so and there's no rattles in here. Like I've heard some people complain that there's squeaks and rattles in their Rivians, but I mean everything's solid. There's no squishing or anything. The doors sound a little like play schooly when you shut them. There's like a brr, brr, like a little rattle to them. They don't have that ka-chunk, that nice thick just boonk. The Audi definitely was, I think, a little bit quieter inside with road noise, but I think the Audi also emphasized a bit more sound dampening material within the vehicle because they're not trying to keep the car under 8,000 pounds.
Right.
This one here definitely has to consider the materials and what it's adding up to in weight.
This is a different segment, right? Like
yeah, it's apples and onions.
Luxury car versus off-road SUV, right?
Yeah.
Or outdoors.
But this still feels very luxury to me. But no, trying to compare this to an RSQ8, I mean, it's apples and onions. It really is very, very different. Like not even oranges. Even oranges is too much in the same category. But I have no regrets so far with this. And I've got almost 600 miles on it since we got it. We've had it exactly 2 weeks, well, 2 weeks and 1 day. My wife loves it. That's what's most important. She doesn't commute. She deals with taking our kids to school, her doctor's appointments, because she has health stuff that means she's at the doctor's a lot, and some around town driving to see friends and stuff. She rarely hits a highway, and I'm telling you, it's the perfect condition for her. Because I used to think like, man, if she's only doing around town driving, that's gonna be terrible for efficiency. But now learning like, oh no, my brain was wired backwards on that. So I'm telling you though, so far of all the vehicles I've ever driven, rentals and whatnot, that have any sort of self-driving mode whatsoever, will be a level 1 or 2, because 3 is still not really a thing, right? It's been really good in the Rivian. Okay, so we just got done shopping at Micro Center. I don't know when that video is going live versus this one, but I plugged in my SSD for the road cam on here, but I didn't realize it was already recording stuff internally. So this is all the motion cam stuff that's like around it. just like a Tesla. But this is when I was getting the car paint corrected and getting some PPF put on the front. Now, it wasn't recording drives because you needed the SSD installed to do road cam. Now that that was installed, and as soon as I plugged it in, it auto formatted and everything. I don't care about when it's parked. I don't think Rivians are targeted like Teslas when people keying them and doing stuff like that. But I care about obviously when we're driving, because it's usually your word versus their word on the way a collision goes down, and now the camera can't lie, right? So there's that. All right, now speaking of other things here, as you can see, we are at Micro Center. There it is right there. But let's say I've got 72% battery, 250 miles left after this drive. The cool thing about this is, like, I can say right now I want it to include chargers. I can choose how fast of a charger I want it to include. So I only have it doing 50 to 150 and 150 plus. And then the charger network. So it can take us to Rivian, ChargePoint, Electrify America, EVgo, and Tesla. Tesla, I'm not gonna lie, it still has the best charging network. As somebody that's just now experiencing this for the first time, I get it. I really do. Their chargers just work. They plug in, they connect to the car. It even tells me exactly how much money it costs and all that. So that's actually been great. But let's say now I want to navigate to somewhere. So I can put in a destination, and then I can also say I want to charge along the way. But right now I just want it to show me all the chargers, right? So if I zoom out, I can see all the chargers that fit within that criteria, and it will tell me how many are free. That one is a Tesla, it's a 250 watt, and I'll just tell it to go. Now here's the cool thing, is it will also precondition the battery on the way there. That is literally a block away, so probably won't get a whole lot of preconditioning, but let's try it. Cool, so it is preparing the battery for fast charging, because it has to be preconditioned. It has to be in just the right amount of temperature to be able to efficiently allow it to charge as fast as possible. So technically it's probably cooling down the battery, because when you're doing quick charging or fast charging, it builds heat, so they gotta bring the battery temp down. Now we're in Irvine right now, which makes sense. There would be a charger station on or a Tesla station for charging on every freaking corner. Anyone in SoCal knows that Irvine is like the Tesla capital of Southern California. The joke is, if you buy a house in Irvine, it comes with a Tesla in the driveway. So you gotta be mindful of where the cable is. The Tesla cables are not long, and the charge port is on my front left. So I have no choice but to sometimes take up 2 spots, which is kind of a dick move when it comes to EVs, but there are 7 out of 12 stations available right now, so I don't care. Now the cool thing is I don't need to do anything with payments, because the Rivian integrates with the Tesla system. We've logged in, it's read, the car is attached to our Tesla account and all that. So as soon as I plug it in, it'll just communicate automatically with the car. So plug that in, it locked, so it can't come out. And if I go inside the car, it should just say charging. You can see this battery indicator. This is a Gen 2 thing. So Gen 1s don't have this, but this shows you the level of battery charge. So obviously it's charged to right here, and then it's just showing the indicator. But if I were to lock the doors, you'll see that that'll go away, because I guess for safety reasons, I don't know, but if I hit lock, see, it goes away. So you can see on the dash right here, we've already got 2% since I plugged it in, but it's showing in real time the price, because it is communicating with the Tesla charger. It knows the kilowatt hour rate right now. So it's able to obviously do the math, how much power it's giving versus what the rate is. So we've already spent $3 or so on power. It's gonna hit 3, there it goes. So it's charging right now currently at, and you can see this on the lock screen, 122 kilowatts. Yes, my car's name is Stormy Daniels. Allow me to explain why. My best friend bought a Rivian before me, and he named his big bootied Latina. That's what he named it. He's Hispanic, he can do that, I guess, if he wants. So he named it Big Booty Latina, and he's like, you need to come up with a fun name for your car too. And we struggled. We were like, oh, how about Misty? No, that just sounds too either porn starry and that'll be ironic, obviously, because we named it Stormy Daniels. But hold on, it's too okay, not porn starry, but strippery. Misty's too strippery. And then we came up with a couple names. I was like, no, that sounds I imagine an old lady in a wheelchair with a crocheted quilt on her lap. The names just weren't working. The color of this car is storm blue. So I named the Wi-Fi in the car Stormy. And then it hit me, Stormy Daniels. That's what it's been named. I have sent several screenshots to Rivian asking certain questions about things with their customer service department, and forgot that it says Stormy Daniels in the app, because when it names the car that, it's not just a nickname. It names the car that. So the car shows up in their system also as Stormy Daniels. It shows up in my wife's app as Stormy Daniels. Everyone has absolutely thought that it is the best name they could have possibly imagined for a storm blue Rivian. In fact, I even had one Rivian customer service agent go, do-do-do, Love the name. Anyway, so we already got 5% in the time we've been sitting here, and it's only charging at 100, and now it's slowed down to 108 kilowatts. This is technically a 250 kilowatt charger, but you never ever get the max speeds, like whatever. So I think I'll just let it go to about 80, because at 80 it'll slow down dramatically. And then we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. I've talked a lot in this video, but and I've only scratched the surface so far at like what this car is really, like where I think its strengths and stuff are. See, now it says charging in hot weather. When it's hot out, your vehicle has to work harder to stay cool. Turn off climate or exit the vehicle for faster charging. Yeah, so ideally, we would want to charge it, exit the car, shut it down, go get lunch, whatever, and then that would be kind of ideal. Like the quick charging, the 350 kilowatt station by my home is in a Farmer Boys parking lot, so that's kind of like perfect. When we talk about cost, that's the other part about the EVs. Everyone's like, well, yeah, you're not buying gas, but you're paying way more for electricity. But you have some control over what that electricity costs. Let me explain. Right now, I am charging at 1:14 p.m. Technically, we're in the city of Irvine. I don't think Irvine has Southern California Edison in all of the city. I think they have Irvine Power, like their own little small power municipal power delivery system. I could be wrong, but let's just say Southern California Edison has what's called TOU, which is time of use, which means during the day, during the most like, I don't want to say scarce, but during the most demand for power, like all the air conditioning systems are on, people are at work, all the lights are on, like during the day, they found between like 1 p.m. and 8 p.m. is when the electricity costs the most. So if you're charging during that window, let's say 6 p.m., it's going to cost you more than if you were charging at, say, midnight. Now, obviously, I don't recommend going out and charging at midnight in a public space like this. It seems kind of sketchy. But if you're charging at home, like for me, I have it scheduled, and I already kind of showed you this earlier, I have it scheduled on my phone so that my charging hours at home for my 220 volt charger is between the hours of 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. Let's talk about charging costs real quick though. So I'm at $12.46 here. The last time I charged at a Tesla station to 99%, my wife and I sat there watching YouTube for a while trying to see how long it would take to hit the 100, but it slowed down to such a trickle, like we were never gonna see it hit 100 at the station, and there's no point to do that. But that was a $22 charge. So far we've had this car 2 weeks, and I've spent about $110 on charging electricity. 2 weeks in 1 day. Let me tell you why that's significant. My wife was spending anywhere between $90 to $110 a week on gas for the RSQ8, and she does not drive it around like a hot rod like I did. That was just around town driving. Remember, that's the most inefficient for a gas engine to be, is the around town stop and go driving. So right now we appear to be using anywhere between 50 to 65% of the cost to keep this vehicle rolling versus the RSQ8. Now the consumables on this car, it's just going to be tires at this point. It's a 3-year lease. We'll turn it in at 3 years, get a new one if we like it, or try something else. Tire rotations are every 7,500, but given the weight of the vehicle, I have a feeling it'd be an annual expense to spend money on tires. Now you might argue like, okay, well then that's going to eat up, because they're $580 a tire for this car. They're Pirelli Scorpions that are specific to the Rivian. Like there's a lot of those. Like you've got the MO designation and the Porsche designation and Mercedes designation for like Cup 2s and PS4s and all those. And they have different designations for manufacturers. Those tend to usually be sidewall rating based on the weight of the vehicle. This is the only vehicle that uses these tires is the Rivian. So it's a very expensive tire because it's a very low quantity tire versus other tire manufacturers. Apparently they're coming out with other brands of tire to help with some of that cost, I guess. But I would assume like every year we'll probably go through a set of tires given the weight of the vehicle at 8,000 pounds. But my wife's car made it about 15,000 miles on her set of tires on the RSQ8. And that was with rotation. So I don't think it's gonna be that much worse, to be honest. A little bit more accelerated, but not as bad. But if we think about the fact that we're spending $100 a week or $50 to $60 a week less on gas, that really adds up every single week, right? And then, like that, I've done plenty of midday charging, just screwing around with it in that first 2 weeks. So I haven't even gone into the full efficiency mode of hyper-miling our wallet when it comes to feeding this thing energy. By the way, it's only got 2 minutes left to be at 90%. We started at 71. That's how fast this thing charges. It's only been 15 bucks. I guarantee you I could not have gotten 30% of a gas tank for $15 in the RSQ8 because it requires 91. And it's $5 a gallon still where we are. Okay, so obviously this is a lot longer of a video than I even intended on making. I barely scratched the surface of what's available in Stormy Daniels, but it's hard to say with a straight face. But you know, I'll be honest, it's never gonna replace the visceral excitement of an actual like high performance V8 or V10 or even a V12 or something exotic. Like this thing accelerates like nothing this size should. Like it just seems irresponsibly fast. It is governed at like 130 miles per hour though. It can't go any faster than that, I think for obvious reasons. It's got torque steer galore. You hit the throttle and it takes off, but then it like definitely wants to go to the right. I'm wondering if that's because of the tri-motor setup potentially. I don't know, I've never driven a quad. I think there's the design cues, that's personal, that's subjective. I love the fact that it doesn't overly scream, I'm an EV. It just looks like an SUV. It's a brick. It's not up in your face like we're trying to look all space aged, and so many EV brands just go over the top and gaudy and ugly with sharp angles and lines and trying to make it look all space aged and stuff. Like for me, like the Ioniq falls into that category. Phil actually likes the looks of the Ioniqs, but I think the Kia EV6 looks better than the Ioniq personally. But I think there's a design cue miss right here. I know they went with these lights because they feel like it makes it look more friendly. The Rivian's trying to be design cued to like it feels as much at home in nature, like camping and off-roading and all that stuff, than it does in like a city street. I had seen some mock-ups of what it would look like if they had ditched these lights and just did like a regular like headlight or something. That would change. Okay, that would change the entire looks. It's like, what'd you say? Yeah. That would change the entire looks of the car and it would look more space age. But they said they went with these oval lights like this because they feel like it's a little more friendly and inviting looking. And then if you've seen the electric Amazon trucks, those were made by Rivian as well with the round light. It doesn't bother me. I think this is cool. I wish that there was maybe a parking mode where we could change the colors and stuff on this, but whatever, I don't know. But I just happen to imagine like, what would it look like if that wasn't there? This is the biggest turnoff for a lot of people aesthetically, are these lights. I don't mind them, I personally don't. I just do love the unapologetically square or rectangular look of this SUV. Gosh, there's so many things I haven't even had a chance to talk about with this car, but I think that's where we're gonna end it now. It's one of those things where I had to really kind of think long and hard about where it fits in like our lifestyle and my household. It's perfect for my wife, like I said, who does not drive long distances, can go days without charging. But it also allows us to, if we're going on a longer trip, not feel like we have a ton of range anxiety. I love the fact that I can find where all the chargers are and the different networks right in the app. The cool thing, or right on board as well as the app. The cool thing is if I navigate somewhere, let's say I'm going to like, I don't know, the Micro Center Phoenix store opening or something, and I wanted to take this, it's about a 6-hour drive from here, 6.5 hours. I can put the destination in, and then it will plan the charging stops along the way, and it will even tell me how long I'm going to be spending at each one of those stops. But I can go a step farther and say, when I get to Phoenix, I want to have, I don't know, 40% battery left at least. It'll charge my stops based on that, which is kind of neat. I've seen a lot of videos before I bought this of people doing like 2,000-mile road trips in it as a review. That's how you really review a product right there, right? That particular video I'm referring to, that guy had all the adventures. He had a flat tire, he had chargers not work, he had, they had to, I guess, have the mobile repair unit come out for something that went weird on the car, and that was a review unit car, right? So he definitely had here's the full experience of what we dealt with going from Washington to Texas and back. So that was an interesting, eye-opening review, but it's perfect for us. I think it'll be a while before I replace my daily driver with an EV. The RS6 is my daily driver, although I'm probably going to be trading that in soon because it is out of warranty and it's starting to get to that age where, miles-wise, where it starts to have all the little quirks and things pop up. I mean, it is still a Volkswagen product. Technically, 16% of this is Volkswagen as well, because Volkswagen and Amazon bought into Rivian when they were going under. The Rivian almost went out of business. A lot of people don't realize that. So they got saved by some big infusions and investments from both Amazon as well as VW. But then the majority ownership, I think, is still held by some private people. But that's it. If I were to tease anything about me getting an EV for myself in the future, I'll be honest. I've really got my eyes, I almost said my eyes to the ground. My ears to the ground and my eyes watching for news on the 2027 Scout. So Scout is coming back. Remember the old International Scout back in the 70s? It was an amazing little, EV, not EV, but a SUV off-roader deal, kind of designed to compete with the Bronco and the K5s and all that at the time. Well, Scout's coming back in 2027. They have a truck and an SUV. You can get it with a bench seat in the front, very a la 1970s style. They're very much about, we want to modernize the 70s feel. All the buttons and stuff are physical touch buttons, but they have two versions. It's gonna be full EV or gas range extender. Does someone come here? Apparently the gas range extender is nothing more than a gas-powered generator on board that adds in the 100 or 120 miles to your range because it's charging the battery as you're driving. So it's not running, it's not propelling the vehicle forward on gasoline in any way. The gasoline's doing nothing but charging as you're driving. That's the one I've kind of got my eye on. Pre-orders, like deposits, are going down now. I think they're $500. I'm debating allocating one just to have an opportunity to, but I absolutely love the styling of the new Scout. So, I don't know, if anyone at Scout's watching and y'all wanna hook a guy up, no, I'm just kidding. But that's what I see myself potentially daily driving in the future, but that doesn't come out till 2027. And who knows what the heck is, nothing ever comes out perfect the first time. In fact, it took to Gen 2 for them to fix a lot of the quirks on this, and this still ain't perfect. Like for instance, the steering, as far as I'm concerned, is way too touchy. Like I even had Phil see, the steering weight is good. When you're on the highway, it gets heavier, so you're not like accidentally, steering too much. But it's got like zero null zone in the middle, and it's extremely sensitive in the middle. So I feel like, when you're making a turn, it's easy to like be overturning, if you will, turning too tightly in those turns. So that is kind of annoying. The air suspension, even in firm, doesn't feel very firm because it's a very heavy car and there's airbags on top of that. So Phil saw, even went over some bumps when it was in firm, he's like, oh my God, if this is firm, dude, I don't want to see soft. When it's even in firm, going over speed bumps, if you go even on normal speed, you feel it bottom out and hit the bump stops in the back. So the suspension does feel a bit soft for the weight of this vehicle. And I think that leads to some of the body roll I was talking about. It leads to some of that, what feels like momentum in a turn where the vehicle kind of wants to sort of scooch out on you. So that leads to you kind of, I don't know if the word would be overreacting. It doesn't feel like it's gonna lose control or anything. It's just you feel the weight of this vehicle move around. The only time it doesn't feel heavy is when it's going forward very, very fast. And it stops fast too, because it's got obviously the braking system that's pretty beefy on the Rivian, and it's got the regen on top of it. So, all right, gonna get on out of here. If anyone, again, I'm a customer of Rivian. I've not talked to them about this video or anything, but I am gonna put my referral code down below. So if any of you guys are interested in looking into a Rivian, we get like $500 for the gear store. I kind of want to do the bars on top. I have an awning that pops out, which I think would be neat at like car shows and stuff for some shade. No, not necessary, but I'm gonna put my code down there anyway if you guys want to use it. Hell, if Marquez can like pay for Teslas with his code, I can get an awning, okay? But you know what? I'm gonna go get inside Stormy Daniels.